Hey, what is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can tell from my voice, but I've been pretty ill recently, and this video was supposed to come out around probably 12 days ago, and I just lost my voice, got the shocking cold, and was just ill for a whole week. I still am. So that's why this video has been slightly delayed, so I'm just letting you guys know videos will be returning to the channel. But anyway, we've got a very interesting top 5 video to talk about today, and I'm not sure about you guys, but one of my favourite and most memorable part of Pokemon games is looking for and catching legendary Pokemon. However, sometimes it isn't the Pokemon that make the capture memorable, but the journey it takes to obtain it and the environment that surrounds the Pokemon. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 5 legendary locations in the Pokemon games. Now, just to make it clear, I'm looking at the design of the location and the challenge it takes to catch these legendary Pokemon. The Pokemon themselves don't influence the list, but I will be making a top 10 video on legendary Pokemon in the near future. Now quickly, before we start the video, question of the day to you guys. What is your favourite legendary location and why? Do you like it for its design, challenge, maybe even the music? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, but with all that out the way guys, let's start the video. So starting off our list might be the most famous legendary location of all, which originally made its debut in Pokemon Red, Blue and Green. This area is home to one of the strongest Pokemon of all time, the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo. As expected, Cerulean Cave is located in Cerulean City and is sealed off to the player until they have beaten the Pokemon League. However, in Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the requirements to get into Cerulean Cave are slightly different. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, the player must prove themselves to the Pokemon League by going to the Sevi Islands to basically do a job for them. It's kind of complicated, I won't go into it too much, but as for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it's a little more simple, just collect all 8 Kanto Gym badges. Now once you're inside a Cerulean Cave, it's quite easy to navigate, as all you need to do to get Mewtwo is to surf on water, climb some ladders and break some boulders. Eventually, you'll find Mewtwo at the back of the cave. The challenge of obtaining Mewtwo doesn't come from traversing Cerulean Cave, but beating the Elite Four and doing the extra challenges. This is also the first Pokemon that was only obtainable late in the game, which made Mewtwo an extremely popular and desirable Pokemon. Cerulean Cave might not be anything special on the inside, but the reason it's on this list is because of the many memories this location has given to the players, as it was the perfect place to test your strength as a trainer. In fact, this location is so iconic, it appeared in the finale of the anime special Pokemon Origins, during Red's final showdown with Mewtwo. Definitely a legendary location in more ways than one. So originally for number 4, I was going to have Spear Pillar, as it is home to 3 legendaries and linked to many more. However, I decided to choose a similar location, although as far as Pokemon experts are concerned, it isn't located on any known region, although we know it's north of Johto. This legendary location in particular is the Sinjoh Ruins, which actually shares a strong relationship between the Sinnoh region and Spear Pillar. The Sinjoh Ruins are only accessible on Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver by bringing an Arceus to the ruins of Alph. When trying to enter the ruins, the lead archaeologist will meet the player and lead him inside, asking for the player's help in solving a mystery. However, due to Arceus' presence, there is a weird atmosphere in the ruins, which leads the player to be teleported to the Sinjoh Ruins. Once there, the player is met by a hiker who says Sinjoh Ruins is a blend of Sinnoh and Johto's cultures, hence the name. The hiker will then lead you inside a cabin where you'll meet Cynthia, the champion of the Sinnoh region. Cynthia will tell the player some background around the ruins and how they were built by people who migrated from Sinnoh. Cynthia then mentions she feels a strong power resonating from your Pokeball containing Arceus and asks you to follow her to the ruins. Here is where things get very interesting. Inside the ruins is the Mystery Stage, which seems to be based off an alchemist's transmutation circle. If you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, you'll know what I mean. Now the middle of the circle represents Arceus, whilst the other areas represent Dialga, Palkia and Giratina. Cynthia asks you to choose one of the 3 creation trio. Once you choose a Pokemon, Arceus will move to the centre of the Mystery Stage and become surrounded by Unknown. Following this is one of the coolest and weirdest cutscenes in the entirety of the Pokemon series. As Arceus begins to create your desired legendary Pokemon, we are shown real-life images of space and the Earth. Eventually, an egg will be created and take form into the Pokemon you chose. After talking to Cynthia, you will be teleported back to the ruins of Alph to the surprise of the archaeologist, since you just disappeared out of nowhere. He concludes that Arceus, Unknown and the ruins of Alph are connected somehow. Now interestingly, it is possible to go back to the Sinjoh Ruins with a second Arceus to get another level 1 legendary, however it is impossible to obtain all three. The Sinjoh Ruins is one of the most interesting and mysterious locations in the world of Pokemon, and it would have been higher on the list if you weren't just given the legendary Pokemon, but instead could battle them. Either way, it's an amazing location for legendary Pokemon, and maybe one day it'll make a return. So these next two entries are ones that are very memorable and personal to me, as I still vividly remember entering these locations for the first time. This first memorable location for me is Turnback Cave, which was the original location for Giratina in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Now it was a tough choice choosing Turnback Cave over the Distortion World, as both are incredibly interesting concepts. But the reason I chose Turnback Cave over the Distortion World was because it was the location that first introduced me to Giratina. I remember walking down Route 214 and finding a new area that had opened up for me called Spring Path, which eventually leads to Turnback Cave. I first set foot in Turnback Cave back in 2007 when it was much more difficult to have the game spoiled for you, so I didn't really know what was waiting for me in here. And that's what made this location so exciting for me. I remember I had just beaten the league the evening before whilst I was on holiday in my hometown, and with my past experiences of Pokemon, I knew there was a new legendary Pokemon waiting for me somewhere. In terms of legendary locations, Turnback Cave is certainly unique. There are many different entrances a player can take that lead to various rooms, with one of these rooms containing the legendary Pokemon Giratina. What makes Turnback Cave really interesting is that the rooms are always randomised in a different order, so there was no set pattern to find Giratina's room, but luckily I encountered it very quickly and was so excited to catch this Pokemon. Probably the most excited I've ever been to catch any Pokemon, and when I first set my eyes on it, I actually thought it was Dragon and Bug type and not Dragon and Ghost type. Let me know if anyone else thought that. To me, it looked like it had some pincers like a bug, on its head area, so yeah, I kind of just thought it was Dragon Bug and was kind of surprised it's Dragon Ghost. But anyway, getting back on topic, catching Giratina was one of my favourite memories of Pokemon, and for that reason, I have very fond memories of Turnback Cave. Following Turnback Cave is a very similar legendary location that appeared in the previous Pokemon generation. This is Sky Pillar, which is home to the legendary Pokemon Rayquaza. Sky Pillar originally appeared in the Generation 3 games Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald. It also appeared in the remakes Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, however, I won't be considering Sky Pillar from the remakes when talking about this legendary location, as Game Freak completely ruined it for me. Now although I was a fan of Pokemon since Generation 1, I was actually quite late getting into the games, with Pokemon Ruby being my first game. I was obsessed with the game and easily put in 700 hours in my first playthrough. However, it took me quite a while to find Sky Pillar after beating the Elite Four, simply because I didn't know it existed. I had explored every nook and cranny of the Hoenn region, and just recently beaten the Elite Four for the first time. So as far as I was aware, there was not much more to be done. I'd already encountered Latios, and let me tell you, that wasn't a happy story, but one I'll save for another video. But one day, I was chilling in Pacifilog Town, waiting for the Mirage Island to show up. Spoiler alert, it never did in 14 years, and one day I accidentally went through a few rocks and ended up at Sky Pillar. At first I thought this was the Mirage Island everyone was talking about, but it was something much greater. Also, I thought it was quite funny how I'd been surfing Route 131 for many hours, and that there was a massive tower next to me that my player could see all the time, yet I couldn't. What I like about Sky Pillar is that it's quite a challenge to make it up there as well, as you need to race your Mac bike across a cracked floor without falling down. I struggled quite a bit with this as a kid, so it made it even more satisfying when you finally reach Rayquaza at the top. Although Turnback Cave might be a better designed location than Sky Pillar, the reason why I put it ahead is because this was my first experience with a legendary location that you could freely discover, and the fact that I didn't even know it existed, yet it was right under my nose the whole time, made this location more memorable. Now we've had various legendary locations across Pokemon's 21-year long history, but none are as cool as these. And I say these because there are three to talk about, which might be slightly cheating, but they are too similar to talk about in separate sections. These legendary locations are the Desert Ruins, Island Cave, and the Ancient Tomb, which are otherwise known as the home to the legendary Titans Regirock, Regice, and Registeel. Now what I like about these locations is that they take a while to reach the legendaries inside, which for me is much better than walking in and finding it like anyone else could. To gain access to the Regi Trio, you must first solve the mystery of the Sealed Chamber, which can be accessed by diving in Route 134. The sealed chamber is well hidden and is quite difficult to find if you don't know where you're going. Now once inside, you'll see some messages that to the untrained eye might be hard to recognise, but this is actually Braille. Now here's where the mystery takes a twist. Back in 2003, when Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire came out, it was very difficult to get access to the internet, so googling a Braille chart was out of the question. So what was cool is that there was a Braille chart in the original Ruby and Sapphire booklets that came with the game. So how did you decipher these cryptic messages? Simple. Grab a pencil and paper and start translating. It sounds quite boring, but this was so much fun to do, as it felt like we were archaeologists discovering an unknown civilization. So the first message reads, "Dig a hole here," which means the player has to have a Pokemon use Dig against a wall. This would give the player access to the next area, which would have another message in Braille saying, "First comes Relicanth, last comes Wailord." This took me a while to figure out the intentions behind the message, and a very long time to obtain the rare Relicanth and the hard to evolve Wailord, but eventually I had solved the puzzle. By positioning Relicanth first in your party and Wailord last, you will unlock all 3 doors of the Regi tombs. However, if you thought the puzzle was over, then you're in for a world of hurt. Each tomb has its own puzzle. To gain access to Regirock, the message on its door says right, right, down, down, then use strength, which basically means just follow the instructions and have a Pokemon use strength in their specific location. For Regice, the message reads, stop and wait for time to pass twice. For this, the player must stand in front of the message for 2 minutes to open the door. And finally, for Registeel, the message reads, with new time, hope and love, aim to the sky in the middle. This means the player must use fly in the middle of the tomb. Now if you only played Pokemon Emerald, then you might have different memories of accessing the Regi trio, and this is because the puzzles were slightly different. So after all your hard work, you will now have the access to catch the legendary Titans. There's no denying that this method of obtaining the Regi trio was exciting and at the same time very unique. Unfortunately, we've not seen any other legendary locations quite like this, and I'd love to see us work hard for legendaries in future games instead of always being given them. Anyway guys, those are my 5 favourite legendary locations in the Pokemon games. Let me know what your favourite one is in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, hope you have an awesome day and I will see you in the next video. Peace!